Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, let's start the story of where Issei was trained in the White Room facility. What if Issei was a lot like Ayanokoji? In this story, you will see how the story would change if Issei were a cold-hearted ruthless genius, the masterpiece of the White Room. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now, let's get into part 1. It was a normal day for me as I woke up from bed. I got up and went to the bathroom to brush my teeth and looked at myself in the mirror. I had short, spiky brown hair with brown eyes and an emotionless look on my face. Despite not being in any clubs, I kept myself in shape and had a nice body. I say breakfast is ready. My mom called. I quickly came downstairs to have breakfast with both of my parents. Good morning, Issei. My mom said, did you sleep well? Yeah, I replied in an emotionless voice. I rarely showed emotion. The few times I did were when I was in a bad mood, and would have a slightly shorter fuse than normal, but you could hardly tell the difference. Well, are you all least excited about the first day of your second year? My dad chimed in. Yeah, I replied in the same monotone voice as ever. As soon as I finished eating, I left the house and said bye to my parents. As I was walking up to school, I saw the perverted duo getting chased by the kendo girls. And it's the first day of school and they're already doing this, I thought to myself. It didn't bother me though, as he went right inside the school. The school was called Kwa Academy. The guys had to wear a black jacket over a white shirt with stripes. The girls wearing something similar, except they had to wear a skirt. As first hour was starting, I got to see who was going to be in my class for the rest of the year. I noticed a few people that stood out to me. One being a girl with black hair. I heard her name was Horikita Susan. Horikita was one of the most popular people in school because while she was very attractive, she was also incredibly smart. The one bad thing though is that she is unusually cold with anyone, so if anyone tried to make conversation, they would get shut down fast. The other group of people that I noticed were the perverted duo, Mitsuda and Motohama, with their faces swollen probably after they got beaten by the kendo girls. As our teacher walked in, everyone stopped talking to see who it was. It was a woman with a cold, stern aura around her. Hello everyone, my name is Issei Tabashira. I just transferred here and will most likely be with you next year as well. I looked around the room to see everyone's reaction to her. All of the boys were going crazy, especially Matsuda and Motohama. Would you look at the size of her breast? Motohama exclaimed. I know, dog, you think I got a chance with her? Matsuda asked. Alright, that's enough, class. Issei-sensei said sternly. I quickly eyed Horikita to see if she had any reaction to this, but she still had on her same cold face. She then began teaching us about Japan's history, which nobody was paying attention to. As soon as the bell rang and school was over, I let out a sigh and made my way to the school gate, only to see someone I hadn't expected to see there. There, why were you staring at me in class earlier? Horikita asked, even though she was asking it sounded more like demanding. Oh, sorry, I was just lost and thought, that's all, I replied. As I did though, she flicked her hair back. As long as that's all it was. She then turned around and left through the school gate. What was that all about? I asked myself. As soon as I went through the gate, I saw another girl with black hair. Unlike Horikita though, she had a cute smile on her face. I didn't know her, so I started to walk past her, but before I could, she called my name. Irisai Hade, correct? The girl asked. She was wearing another school uniform, which was an all-red one with a white shirt underneath that. She also had on a white skirt. She must be from the all-girls academy from a few streets down. I thought to myself, yes, that would be me. Can I help you? I asked in my monotone voice. I truly couldn't care less about what she had to say, but since I already responded, it was too late to back myself out. I was wondering if you would like to be my boyfriend, she exclaimed. She started quiet but quickly raised her voice towards the end. No, I said, after which I started to walk away. I guess that shocked her a lot, since she had her mouth open like she never thought she would have been turned down. As I went back home, I quickly put my stuff on my bed. My mom and dad were out working and I never knew when they would be back, so I just laid in bed for a bit. After a while, I decided to go on a walk to kill some time. At school, from what I heard at least, I was considered to be one of the most attractive people there. But similarly to Horikita, my personality is what put me down. At school, there were lots of attractive people there, but a few stood out in total. One was Rias Gremry. She had long red hair with a large bust and a perfect body. Another one was Akeno Himejima. She had long black hair with her breasts being slightly bigger than Rias. Together these two were the president and vice president of the Occult Research Club. They were also known as the great ladies of the school. Everybody knew them since they were third years. Then there was Kubiyuto, who had short blonde hair and was considered the most popular and attractive boy in the whole school even though he was only a second year. There was also Kaneko Tuju, who was a short girl with white hair. She was considered to be the school mascot, which is very surprising since she is only a first year. Lastly, there the student council president Sona Shatori, also a third year. She had short black hair and a cold aura around her quite similar to Horikita. Out of everyone though, I like Sona the best. Not only was she the student council president, but she was also very smart, and also one of the few people I respected. She had talked to me last year right before school let out about something I didn't even realize. Flashback. As I stretched my arms in my seat, it was a few days after finals had ended and everyone was just waiting for the break. Teachers even stopped trying after finals. They normally just put on a movie or let us go on our phones. That was when an announcement was put on the speakers. Say hi, do please come down to the student council office, please. Everyone in my class turned to look at me and I shrugged my shoulders and headed down there. When I finally arrived, I noticed Sona was sitting alone at the end of a large table with many chairs around it. Can I help you? I asked. Yes, there are some things I'd like to ask you about. Please have a seat, she said calmly. I quickly grabbed a seat not too close to her but not too far away. Regarding your finals exams, how do you think you did on them? She asked me, looking me dead in the eyes. I think I did okay, I responded. She quickly flipped over the papers she had on the table and showed them to me. They were all of the tests and quizzes I had taken this year, all of which had been marked with a 75%. I could have done much better, but I didn't want to stick out much, so I decided to get a 75 on all my tests, thinking nobody would notice. I quickly realized the situation and that I could be in some trouble if I don't play my cards right. Would you care to explain? She asked, clearly indicating about my test scores. I don't know what to tell you, I said. I'm not the greatest student, but I didn't think that I would get a 75 on all of them. At Cal, you were given your grade at the middle and end of the school year and normally after finals and midterms. What I was confused about, however, was why did she have my scores in the first place? The teachers were the ones who graded them, so why did she have them? Your test scores contradict what you're saying, Haida-san, she said coldly. I don't know what you're talking about. Care to explain? At this point, I had already figured out my mistake but didn't know if she realized it, so I played dumb. On the finals, the last two questions asked at the end were meant for college students, yet you solved them. It was by luck, I said, but I already knew I was done. There was no way to escape now since she knew. If it was by luck, then how did you get those right but fail on the easier questions? I made a mistake and got lucky. I don't know what else to tell you. She didn't say anything for a while, then started thinking. After around 20 seconds of silence, she said, Hida-san, do you believe in the supernatural? I found it a quite interesting question but answered it honestly. I cannot believe in something that has no proof of it existing, so no. We both didn't say anything for a while, but after around another 20 seconds she finally spoke up. Okay, you are free to leave. However, next time you want to hide the fact that you're a genius, try to do it better. I was genuinely surprised after she said that. It was at that moment I started to respect her, and I think she has well respected me. Okay. Thanks for the input. Also feel free to call me Say now, I said while leaving. You're free to call me Sound at 2 if you'd like, she replied, sounding a little happy. Okay. Then I will see you next year, I said while leaving the room. Flashback end. I still can't believe I made such a dumb mistake, I thought to myself. When I finally stopped to look around where I was, I realized I was in a park with a fountain in front of me. Man, I must have walked for a while. I sailed aloud. As soon as I turned around, however, the sky turned from sunset orange to purple. I looked to see who was in front of me, and it looked like the girl who asked me out, only this time she looked a little older, and had black wings coming out of her. I was immediately on guard. Then I remembered something. It was what Sona had said in the club room. Do you believe in the supernatural? As the memory played in my mind, the girl called out to him. You know, when you rejected me on that date, it took a big wound to my pride. She summoned what seemed to be light in her hand, which should have been impossible. If you want to blame someone for your death, blame God for giving you a sacred gear. A sacred gear, I thought, but was quickly returned to reality when I saw that she was going to throw the light at me. The light spear came at me faster than I could have ever thought it would, but I had narrowly dodged it by moving his body very quickly to the side. Realizing there was no running away, I tried to charge and drawing myself closer, since I was very confident in my ability with hand-to-hand combat. However, she quickly summoned another spear and stabbed me with that one since I was too close to dodge. You really are a monster, she said. A human being able to dodge a light spear, that is something I have never seen before. As she finished that last part, she removed the light spear from my body. I quickly fell as I was stabbed right in the stomach. I thought, is this it? I asked myself. I felt my consciousness start to slip. That was when I saw blood splatter in front of me. However, it was not my blood, it was that girl who stabbed me's blood. I tried to see who injured or maybe even kill her, but my vision was so hazy I couldn't see them. To think I would see you like this is quite a surprise, the boy said. I couldn't make out whose it was because I was so close to death. I shall revive you, however you must live for me now, the boy said. After that, I quickly passed out. When I woke up next, I jolted up only to realize I was in my bed. A dream? I thought aloud. Even though I normally never show emotion, anybody could tell that I was stressed by how my face just looked. I quickly regained composure of myself, and realized that it was far too real to be a dream. I went to the bathroom and looked into the mirror as I lifted my shirt to see if I still had a scar from where I was stabbed. However, there was no scar, which made me even more confused. What happened to me? I thought. As I tried to process what happened yesterday, I only came up with more questions. I have no idea what's going on, I thought to myself. First, there was the fact that out of nowhere the sky turned from orange to purple, but the main thing was the fact of the person with black wings who summoned light out of thin air. Could it have been a fallen angel? I thought to myself. I am not a religious person, since there was no clear proof that God or demons existed at all. After what I just saw, though, that was pretty much clear proof of a fallen angel. As I was thinking, I quickly realized that I was going to be late for school. When I checked the time, though, it was 10:56 in the morning, well over the time school normally started. I should have probably stayed home anyway, I thought to myself. That's when I remembered the strange voice that called out to me. You are now going to live for me. I quickly realized that the voice sounded fairly similar to Sona's. If it was her, that would also explain why she asked me about the supernatural last year. Tomorrow I'll have a talk with her. Normally there was nothing I couldn't really understand, but this was just something I couldn't wrap my head around. I needed to have this explained to me ASAP. For the rest of the day, I just stayed home. I didn't want to risk getting killed again over my sacred gear. I would also have to ask Sona about that. As the next morning rolled around, I had a text on my phone from my mom. Sorry, you say your dad and I are going to be on business for a while. We will most likely be back around next week, but we'll keep you posted. They were always out on business, so it didn't really bother me that much. I quickly got ready and headed downstairs for a quick breakfast and left. I made my way to school quickly since I didn't want to have another run-in with death. When I made it to school, I immediately headed for the student council room. When I got there, I saw two people outside the door. One was a guy who had blonde, messy hair. The other was a girl who had reddish-brown hair and was just a bit smaller than the former. I quickly went up to them. Is Sona in today? I asked. The boy quickly responded, sounding a bit angry, who said you could use her first name. She is the student council president, Sona Citri. Also, what's with your robot-like voice? Citri. I thought her last name was Chitauri. I thought to myself. As soon as the boy finished, the girl whacked him in the back of the head. Sogi. She yelled. He means Chitauri. Citri is a nickname we use for her. If that's not a lie, I don't know what is, I thought. Well, anyway, is your president, and I have some urgent business I need to speak with her about. She just left a while ago to get some papers from the teacher's lounge. But seriously, dude, what's with you? You sound like you are on autopilot mode, he said, laughing. Even though I already knew about it, it still hurt to hear it directly. All of a sudden, though, his face suddenly stiffened. I turned around to see what he was looking at, and it was Sona walking with her vice president Tsubaki Shinra. Tsubaki had a much larger bust size than Sona and much longer black hair, but still had the same cold aura around her. Sona, I would like to have a word with you if you don't mind. Saji was about to speak up again, probably for using her first name, but before he could, Sona replied. Of course, as she said calmly. She opened the doors of the student council and all 5 of us came in. Do you mind if I can speak to you in private, actually? I asked, hoping everyone else would leave the room. What? There's no way we're going to leave the press in here with a word to like you, Sugi yelled. You guys are dismissed currently, Sona said sternly, mainly focusing on Sugi. Everyone started to leave except for Tsubaki. Tsubaki, can you please leave too? Sona said. If that's what you wish. She gave a bow and left, leaving me and Sona alone together in the room. Sona sat in the chair furthest from the door, and I sat next to her. So what is it you wanted to talk about? She asked. You know why I'm here, I said coldly. What happened last night? Sona looked at me with a dead serious face and started to speak. We were killed yesterday by a fallen angel for having something called a sacred gear. Sacred gears are things that give people extraordinary abilities. So I have some sort of power inside of me? I thought. That answered 2 of my questions, but I still had a few more. You were the one who saved me yesterday, correct? Who exactly are you, Sono's Citri? I said, using her real name that I heard from Saji earlier. She was clearly startled that I used her real name, but figured that Saji must have let it slip by accident. I am a devil and a member of the House of Citri. As she said that, a pair of bat-like wings came out of her back. You don't seem very surprised about all of the information I've told you so far, she started. Is it because you already guessed this and wanted to be sure of it? I quickly met her gaze and started speaking. Yes and no. The fallen angel thing was the only thing I figured out, that, and you saving me. Speaking of which, care to explain how you did that? I asked, genuinely curious. I reincarnated you as a devil using the evil pieces system. To put it simply, I am your master now. That shocked me, however I kept my emotionless face together. What if I didn't want to be your servant? I asked, although I was fairly certain I knew the answer. We will send people to kill you if you attempt to harm me or run away. Oh, there goes my peaceful life, I thought. Also, what if I was getting ready to ask my question when the bells suddenly rang for the first hour? Don't worry about it, she said. I will send your teacher a notice that you will be late for class today. Thank you, I replied. So what about the sky turning purple and the fallen angel summoning light in her hands? The sky turned purple because you were put in a barrier that sealed you away from the rest of the world. The fallen angel could summon light because she used to be an angel with mainly used light. It is similar to how we devils use magic. The rest of the questions weren't as important. I did learn a few new things though. The evil piece system is like a chessboard. I was reincarnated as her bishop, which was a mutation piece. Mutation pieces make it so more powerful people can join the peerage with fewer pieces being used. In her peerage, there were 7 of us in total, including me. Saji also had a sacred gear, so he took up 4 pawn pieces. With him being a pawn, he can promote to any other piece if his king, Sona, decides it's enemy territory. His sacred gear is Prison Dragon, Verta, which lets him connect a line to somebody to absorb their power. Tsubaki is her queen, which makes sense since she is the vice president of the student council. A queen is a mix of all the other pieces, meaning she gets a boat in strength, speed, and magic. Homomiguri is the other girl who was waiting by the door with Saji. She is a knight, which means she has a boat in speed. Momo Henkai is a bishop like me, meaning she has a boost in magic power. Ryako Saka is a pawn piece. And finally, Tsubasa Yura is a rook, meaning she gets increased strength. After all of the talking, I excused myself. But as I was leaving, Sona told me to meet back in the student council room after school. Everyone, I'd like you to meet the newest member of this Purigusa Haidu, Sona said. Everybody looked pretty pleased to see me except Saji, who looked like he'd seen fire for the first time. There was a white-haired girl who was Momo Henkei, who is my fellow bishop. The girl with blue hair was Tsubasa Yara. And finally, the girl with brown hair was Ryakusuka, a pawn. They all had some business to do this morning, so I wasn't initially able to meet them. Now Issei, Sona started in a serious voice. I am going to help you awaken your sacred gear to try not to feel too surprised. She quickly reached for my hand and started holding it. Saji looked like he was ready to kill me then and there, but the other girls all seemed fine. Out of nowhere, though, something entered my body. It was hard to say exactly what it was, but it felt very uncomfortable. Now I say, try to bring that energy into your core. I didn't really get what she was saying, but I tried it anyway. After a few seconds, though, a red aura flashed, and a red gauntlet appeared on my left hand, which Sona was holding. No way, it can't be. Sona, sounding genuinely surprised for once, looked at the red gauntlet on my arm. What happened? I asked with no surprise in my voice whatsoever. You have one of the 13 Longinus, the boosted gear. Sona yelled. This made everyone except Sagi and I have a shocked expression on their face. What a Longinus? Sagi asked, confused. The Longinus are sacred gears with enough power to kill God. When God made the sacred gear system, these were initially a mistake, but they couldn't find a way to fix it, Sabaki said. Sagi's face was a mix of amazement and jealousy. So what does the boosted gear do exactly? I asked. It doubles your power every 10 seconds, Sona replied. Sagi's face turned from a mix of amazement and jealousy to just pure jealousy, as Sona had still not let go of me and that I had one of the strongest sacred gears ever. Issei, Sona said as she let go of my hand, I am going to have you start studying magic and devil language tomorrow. Also, since you have turned into a devil, your senses and body will be better and stronger than ever. You will also be able to speak and hear in language, but you won't be able to read or write it. Sona explained. I don't really see how that worked, but I assume that was just a natural perk of becoming a devil. Wait, doesn't he have to do the devil acuity work first? Saji said. Normally he should, but I have different plans for him, Sona said with a little smile on her face. Alright. That is all for today. Meet here after school tomorrow, everyone, Sona said. And with that, everyone took their leave. As I left school, I remembered that I needed to get some things at the store. I walked to the shopping district and went inside the grocery store. I mainly just needed food, so I was just going to grab some and leave. However, when I was in the snack section, one saw someone I hadn't expected to see, Horikita. As soon as I saw her, she saw me. You already missed a day and a half of school even though it's the first week, she said in an angry tone. Well, some things came up, so I had to take care of that. I was surprised she started the conversation, so I wanted to keep it going. She looked me in the eyes and then walked away. So much for trying to continue the conversation, I thought. As was on my way out, I spotted Horikita, who was heading the same way I was, so I quickly caught up with her. What do you want? She asked in a cold tone. Well, we were going the same way, so I figured we could walk together, I said. Fine, she said and started walking off. We walked for a while until we were on the street right before mine. Then Horikita and I saw someone you normally don't see in Japan, a nun. When she saw us looking at her, she walked up to us. She looked to be about the same age as me and Horikita, but had blonde hair that was noticeable a mile away. Do you know how to get to the church around here? She asked, seeming worried. If you go 5 streets down, and then take a right and go straight, there's a church right there. I'm pretty sure it's abandoned though, I said. Horikita looked at me almost as if she was shocked, but quickly went back to her normal self. Thank you so much. She bowed her head. No problem, I said. As I started walking away, though, a boy on the other side of the street tripped and hurt his knee. I looked over and didn't say or do anything, and neither did Horikita. The nun, however, ran straight up to the little boy. As the nun was making her way to the kid, Horikita looked me in the eyes and asked a question. I didn't know you could speak Italian. That girl was speaking Italian. I couldn't tell since now that I had become a devil. I could understand any language so long as they were speaking to me. I couldn't just tell Horikita I was a devil though. Sona warned me about it, and even I knew to keep normal humans out of the supernatural. I studied a little bit of Italian when I was younger, I lied. Horikita stared me down for a bit before leaving. I turned to look at the nun to see something shocking. She had a greenish light coming out of her hands and was trying to tell the boy he was all right. She has a scared gear, I noted to myself. When she finished helping the boy, she started to head toward the church. I decided to follow her since this was devil territory from what Sona said. I only had 2 bags on me, so I decided to follow her but not to make myself known. However, when I saw the church, I immediately got the feeling to run away. I figured this was my body's way of telling me that I needed to stay away from churches, but my curiosity got the better of me as I continued to follow her anyway. It was starting to become night now, so my senses became much better since devils are stronger at night. When she went inside, I took a small peek inside through one of the windows. What I saw though was startling. I saw a group of people around the nun, and another guy who was dressed as a priest and had white hair. But the startling part was the fact that one of the people in that group was the one who tried to kill me just the other day. I quickly went away from the church and put my groceries away after I did that. I laid in bed and started to drift asleep. Things are about to get a lot more interesting, I thought before finally falling asleep. Issei's dream. I woke up but not somewhere I expected. I turned to look everywhere, and it was all black. It felt like I was just falling, but I was being kept in one position. "Hey there, partner." A deep voice called out. "Who are you and where am I?" I asked as I looked around only to continue to see darkness. "I am the Welsh dragon, Dreg." I then realized that this was the dragon that got sealed away in my boosted gear. "So you're my sacred gear then?" I asked, wanting reassurance. After I asked though, the darkness around me turned into a dark red and I saw a giant dragon with red scales pop out of nowhere. "Yes, that is me. Your power, the boosted gear, comes from me," Drake yelled. "So what is it you wanted to talk to me about?" I asked bluntly. Drake seemed thrown off by my question for some reason. I asked the question again and waited for a good minute before he finally spoke up. "No, oh might's a dragon, or a dragon, oh my god, so cool," Drake asked. "I mean, you did call me here for a reason, right?" Saji said that his sacred gear talks to him too, so I figured this would happen eventually. The dragon looked at me almost as if it was trying to read my emotions. "You're an interesting host, I must say," Drake started. "Out of all of my previous hosts, they normally have some sort of emotion when they see me, but you have no emotion on your face whatsoever." Drake was speaking super loud, but I let it slide since this was our first time meeting. "What sacred gear does the boy have that lets him talk to it?" Drake asked curiously. "He has the prison dragon, Vertra, as a sacred gear," I replied. Drake didn't say anything for a while, but then started to laugh a little. "I have not seen Verta in forever." Drake started. "Anyway, what I wanted to ask you is what you plan to do with the information you know about the fallen angels." I was surprised for a second that he knew about it, but figured that he has been watching me since he was awakened. "I plan to do a test of sorts," I said. As I explained my plan, Drake listened with great interest. Drake started to laugh. I don't know what to say. I looked at Drake for a second, wanting his intel since he knew more about the fallen angels and such. "It's a good plan, I must admit." He started, however. "Do you really have no issue using that?" "None like that. I just want to test my idea out. Plus, I could get more intel on fallen angels if I do this." Greg at first seemed taken back by my answer, but then said, "You really are a devil." Afterward, he started laughing again. "I haven't had a host this interesting in a while. Let's see if this plan of yours works." After he said that, I got pulled out of my dream and woke up. I looked at my clock, which said 7:28, which was the time I normally woke up. I went downstairs to see that my parents still haven't returned from their business trip. Normally these things don't take a week, but oh well, I thought to myself as I left the house. School went by fairly quick today, but I got my stuff and headed down towards the student council room. When I opened the door, however, I saw all of the most popular people in the school in one room. Rias, Akeno, Kiba, Kaneko, and Sona and her peerage. Welcome, Issei. Please have a seat, Sona said. I quickly grabbed the seat to the right of Sona. So this is your new servant? I must say he seems off, Ria said. I just glared at her before returning my glare to Sona. So why are we here anyway? Well, Issei, what we wanted to talk about was the fallen angel situation here in Kwa, Sona said. Shit, this was one of the things I was hoping would not happen. Are we gonna kill them? I asked bluntly, much to the surprise of Rias and her peerage. Are you dumb? We can't just charge at them, they're fallen angels. We have to be careful. She was seriously starting to get on my nerves now. Sonos, sensing my irritation, quickly spoke up. Rias, please don't talk to my servant like that. I'll have you know he has a lot more to him than he looks. Rias just looked at me and said whatever. Back to the topic at hand, how are we going to deal with the fallen angels? Kiba spoke up. Rias was about to say something, but Sona quickly interrupted her. Me and my peerage will take care of this. What? Kwa is my territory, Sona, my peerage, and I will be the ones to take care of it. Seriously, what's with this spoiled brat? Does she think she can get anything just because she comes from royalty? Most devils are like that, is saved, Rag suddenly said, which surprised me since I thought he could only communicate to me through dreams. She's from the house of Gremory, right? What does her family do exactly? Her older brother is basically the king of hell, Sirs Lucifer. Her ability is destruction, meaning she can destroy things around her with her magical aura. Okay, thanks for the input. I quickly returned myself to the conversation as they were still arguing about who should deal with the fallen angels. Wouldn't make more sense for us to do it since we have 2 new members who need battle experience? Tsubaki interjected, bringing up a good point. Rias couldn't really counter her, so she let us deal with the issue. After that matter was settled, she quickly returned her attention to me. So what's special about him? I know your other new servant has prison dragon Verda, but what about him? She asked in an arrogant voice. Her peerage was clearly distressed by the way she was acting, although they didn't show it. They were all fidgeting or looking away from her. He has one of the 13 Longinus's, the boosted gear, Sona said. Immediately after Sona said that, Rios shot up. You mean one of the sacred gears that can kill God? Rios yelled. Is that not what she just said? I thought. I quickly looked at Sona and her peerage, who were clearly all asking the same thing. Only Sagi seemed out of it. He had a slight blush on his face looking at Rias and the girls in her peerage. I let out a sigh and let out my boosted gear. A red aura wrapped around my arm, revealing a red gauntlet with a green orb in the middle. Rias was practically drooling when she saw it. Sona, would you be willing to do a bishop trade? It's fair since my bishop is also a mutated piece. Everyone in the room looked at her. Even Sagi, who finally snapped out of his daydream, stared at her. Quickly sensing everyone's gaze, she tried to explain. Please, Ona, you know how bad I need power on my side right now. Rias begged. Sona looked at me and turned back to Rias. I will give you to him temporarily if he agrees to it. Don't just put me on the spot like this. I have nothing to do with this. I thought. Rias immediately turned to me with pleading eyes. No, I said, immediately causing Rias to get mad. Sona, doesn't your servant know respect? He should know to help out fellow devils in trouble. I was seriously questioning devils now. I figured they were all like Sona, smart and collected, but this quickly proved me wrong. Sona snapped back. I will not let you teach me how to raise my servants. It makes sense that he said no considering how you were treating him earlier, Sona said angrily. Everyone in the room except me looked shocked. Apparently, Sona never yells at anyone, so this was a big shocker. Fine, Rias said, startled. We are leaving, let's go. Rias quickly left the room with her peerage except one stayed behind. I am truly sorry about her actions today. She has a lot on her plate right now, so I'm hoping you can forgive her. Akeno bowed her head. She then looked at me, indicating she was mainly apologizing to me. At least not everyone in her peerage is like her, I thought. Yeah, sure, it's fine, I said. She quickly bowed her head again and left the room. After Akeno left, I looked at Sona. Is she always like this? Sometimes, but right now she has a lot of devil royalty problems to deal with. Alright, well, is our meeting still going to happen today? I asked. Don't you want to know what's going on with her? Sona asked. Not Ray. I began when I was suddenly cut off by Sagi. I do. Sona sighed and answered him. Sona has a forced marriage proposal that she is trying to get out of right now. That's why she is so on edge. That's interesting. I thought, well, our meeting today was cancelled because of Ria's interference, so you are all dismissed. I started to get my stuff together when Sona suddenly called out, Tsubaki Issei, please stay here. There are some other matters I'd like to discuss with you. Yes, President, Tsubaki said as she sat back down. I quickly followed her and sat down in my seat again. It is okay if I can stay here too, Sagi asked, hoping not to be left out too much. Fine. Just listen though, Sona said coldly. He then moved and sat right next to Sona, glaring at me. Is he really that mad? I sat right next to her. I wondered. As soon as everyone else bowed their head and left, Sona continued the conversation. To say about the time I found you, there were some things I wanted to ask. Saji was still glaring at me, but I just brushed it off. 1. Why did you not accept her date offer? She had cast a spell on herself that would make people feel much more attracted to her. How did she know about that? There weren't many people around at the time. How did you find that out? I asked. Saji looked on with more envy, since in his eyes I was hitting on Sona as well as other girls. I heard the girl bring it up as she killed you. Well, at least that made sense. Mine as well, answer honestly, I thought. When she first asked me out, she asked whether my name was Issei, which was pretty weird in the first place, since if she liked me, she shouldn't have to confirm that. Also, I had never met her before, making her either a stalker or someone that wanted something from me. Everyone except Sona looked shocked that I had figured that out in such a short amount of time. If I was like Sagi, I probably would have accepted it without even thinking about it. Alright. That answers one of my 2 questions. Now for the other. How did you dodge a light spear? Even if you were kinda far away, a normal human should not have been able to do that? She asked coldly. So you were watching the whole thing, waiting for me to get killed? I replied back to her. Tsubaki looked even more shocked than she already had when she found out that when I was a human, I could dodge a light spear. Sagi, on the other hand, didn't look like he cared much. I have been watching you ever since the last day of school last year. She started when I found out that not only you were a genius but also had some kind of sacred gear. Of course, I had to keep an eye on you. Sagi looked devastated, thinking that she had been stalking me the whole summer. Even I thought that was what she did before she explained. Wait, I wasn't watching like that. She was very flustered and got very defensive after the glance I gave her. I was keeping an eye on you using magic, that's all. She finished. So then you did know I was going to die? I asked with still no emotion in my voice. Sona quickly regained her composure and answered, I couldn't keep my eyes on you all the time. So when I had seen that you were in the park with an aura of a fallen angel, I got there in time to see you dodge the light attack, but couldn't make it in the when she stabbed you. If you had run away like any normal person I could have, but you charged her on, making your death come faster. That makes sense at least, but how was I supposed to know she would save me? Alright, now for the reason I brought Tsubaki here. As you know, all members of the student council have to be elected. However, considering your personality, I figured that wouldn't work out well. Although I didn't want to admit it, she was right. If I were to run for any position, I would get practically no votes. So what are we going to do about it? Tsubaki asked. The only way I could make you a member without an election for you would mean that you would have to become the second vice president, Sona said. Saji was upset since he had a hard time with his election. He thought it was unfair for me to get a free bye. Wait, Sona wouldn't only be fair if he were to run for something. I know his personality is dull, but that's the only way to make it fair, Saji said. This was mainly why I didn't want any other club members here for when I discussed this. Also, I said for you to just listen, so sit back down, Sona said coldly. While Sagi knew it was unfair, he didn't really have the right to say anything since he wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. I have no issues with this. From what you have told me as well, he would make an excellent third in command, Tsubaki said. Wyatt! Saji yelled. He's only been here for a few days and is already second in command. Saji, I thought I told you to sit down and be quiet, Sona said sternly. Saji sat down with a pout on his face but stayed quiet. Well, now that is settled, let's call in a day, Sona said. Thankfully, they forgot about the question with me dodging a light spear. I thought we all grabbed our stuff and headed out. When I left the school gate, I checked the time. 5:0:3, plenty of time, I thought to myself as I made my way towards the church. I quickly left the school and headed to the church. It took around 10 minutes to finally get there, but when I did, I got that same feeling from before that I should not go in there, but I was going to anyway. I went to the window again to see if anyone was in there. Luckily for me, the fallen angel and the other people weren't in there right now. The only person that was there was a blonde nun praying in front of a cracked statue. Well, here goes nothing, I thought as I went inside the church despite my instincts telling me not to. Hello again, I said while I walked toward the nun. She opened her eyes and seemed pleased to see me. Oh, hello again. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself last time. My name's Asia Argento. What's yours? My name is Issei. Hi, do feel free to call me Issei though, I said with a plain face. You can call me Asia then, she said happily. Do you mind if I finish my prayer first before we start talking? If you'd like, I could join you. I'm not super religious, but I do pray every night. I lied. Her eyes seemed to light up when I asked her. Sure, of course, she said with a grin on her face. I knew this was going to hurt like a bitch even if I didn't pray, since I was a devil kneeling in front of a holy statue with my hands together would hurt me, but I was going to do it anyway. I got on my knees and put my hands together but did not pray. As soon as I did that though, I felt a sharp sting in my head. It hurt but not nearly as bad as I thought it would. I continued like this, dealing with the sharp pain in my head until Asia was done praying. I got up after another 20 seconds. So what did you want to talk to me about? She asked. Well, you seem new to town, so I thought I could show you around for a little bit, I said emotionlessly. Like a date? She asked while blushing. For a nun, you sure do have love wrapped in your head. I thought, sorta like a date, I could show around town right now until around 9 p.m. Oh, okay, sounds good, let's go, she said excitedly while blushing. I showed her around town for 3.5 hours, and she seemed like she had enjoyed it. We went to the arcade, to some shops, and finally went out for dinner, which I treated her for. Thank you so much. I had so much fun today, she said while blushing. We had currently just left the restaurant, and I was walking her home. You're welcome. It's not every day I get to show a cute girl around town, I said. Asia's face flushed to an even darker shade of red while mine stayed the exact same the whole 3.5 hours. Well, it's now or never, I thought. I stopped while walking, which made Asia stop as well. Asia, is there something bothering you? You seemed kind of distressed before I came into the church. Asia seemed taken back by my bluntness but still answered. Yeah. I have something coming up later this week that kinda has me in a bit of a mess, she said with a forced laugh. So the fallen angels do plan on doing something with her, but I'm not sure about what I should do. I'm thinking about running away since I really don't want to do it, but I feel like if I do, I'll abandon my faith, which is really the last thing I have going for me. What do you think I should do? She asked with a distressed face. There are many people in cool like me who pray at home and have no church to go to since this one is abandoned. This may be a little selfish of me to ask, but can you please stay here and fix up the church? I know something is coming up for you and I don't want to pry, but most bad things don't go nearly as bad as you normally think they do. I lied with a complete poker face, not one nerve twitching or one sweat drop, just a complete lie done perfectly. She smiled at me like I had given her reassurance. Thanks to you, I know what I'm going to do. No. I'll stay here and watch over the church for you and everyone else in Kwa. Perfect. Now to ask one last thing. Also, Asia, what day is the thing happening? I know I may be prying a little bit, but I would like to help you out a bit, I said. Asia shook her head. No, you're not prying. It's happening on Sunday, but I'm afraid you can't be there. It's a private thing done by the church. Okay. Well, I hope you the best of luck on whatever is happening. I said as we approached the church. I got that bad feeling again but quickly dismissed it. Okay. Bye. See you soon, she said with a smile. I waved back with a plain face. As I started walking home, Drake spoke up. I can't believe that truly worked. You got her trust so easily. I wouldn't say I get full credit for this though. She is a super trusting and caring person, which I figured out about her since she went to help that little kid to scarp his knee the other day. Now I need to get some sort of training done so I can get used to using your power. I also need to convince Sona Tsubaki to go with me to the church on Sunday. Issei, if you want some training, we can do it inside your dream. I would not only be able to teach you how to use your sacred gear better, but also teach you some magic. Thanks, Dreg. After a while, I finally arrived home when I got a text from my parents. We will be coming home tomorrow. Hopefully, you aren't missing us too much. I put my phone down and went to bed. When I awoke, I was in the dream space with Dreg. Issei's dream. When I fell asleep, I awoke to be in a place where everything was white. Only white for as far as the eye could see. A few seconds later, Dreg showed up in his full dragon form. Hey, partner. Ready for some training? I nodded, and then he started telling me the basics. Since I have been in your body for a while, I already know what magic attributes you work best with, those being fire, ice, and water. Is that good? I asked. Well, to find magic users with more than one best attribute is already pretty rare, and you have 3 of them, but what matters is not the magic, it's how it is used. I nodded at his explanation since it made sense. Also, since you have me and your boosted gear, you will be able to do all the magic I could with enough training. I nodded again. Sounds good. So what magic are we going to be learning first? Even though I didn't show it on my face, I was a little curious about how magic works since I could never do it as a human. The first magic you will be learning is fire breathing. It does as the name suggests, and I can use it too, Drake said proudly. After what felt like forever, I finally got the hang of it. It wasn't always 100% working so far, but according to Drake, I was one of the fastest learners he has ever had. Well, it's about time for you to wake up, so I gotta go now. I'll make sure you have fire breathing mastered by Sunday, Drake said. Thanks, Drake, I replied, shortly after I woke up and headed toward the school. When I finally arrived at school, I noticed everyone was looking at me and whispering. Normally people just ignore me, but this is something new. I thought, hey, Issei, congratulations on getting second VP. I turned around only to see Tomo, the reddish-haired girl, and the student council. So that's why everyone was looking at me, I thought. Oh, hi Tomo, I said back. Press said to let you know to meet in the club room today after school. She meant to tell you yesterday, but every day after school we meet there unless we are told not to, she said in a happy voice. Oh, okay, but you better head to class. School is about to start. With that, she made her leave and I made my way to the classroom. Once again, the whole day was pretty boring, but Sei-sensei kept glaring at me sometimes. I figured that she was suspicious of a quiet kid like me getting chosen to join the student council as VP. Apparently, what Sona and Tsubaki said to everyone is that I helped out with their marking campaigns and helped a lot from behind the scenes. It's just that since I was pretty antisocial, I wanted nobody to know that I was a part of it. That made pretty good sense to me. After class, I made my way down to the student council room where everyone was seated. I quickly took a seat next to Tomo since Sona was sandwiched between Saji and Tsubaki, and Tomo was the person I knew second best. Today I have called you all here regarding the matter with the fallen angels. Sona started. Well, they are not supposed to be here. It would be a bad idea just to run in since it could kickstart the next great war. We could use Issei being killed as a way to show that they were harming the people in the town, but since I saved you, we can't use that as an excuse anymore. Normally, this would be quite the predicament, but I had already set things up to overcome this border. I thought, well, Horikita and I were walking home together after we met at the grocery store. Then while we were walking back, we saw a nun who said she was looking for the abandoned church. I took her to it, and not only found that that's where the fallen angel's base is, but also that the nun has some sort of healing sacred gear. After I finished, everyone looked at me with different faces. Ria, Tsubasa, Tomo and Momo seemed to be shocked that I found out all of that info. Saji seemed mad that I was walking home with the Ice Princess, as they called her. Sona and Tsubaki seemed upset as well about something too. Well, it was barely noticeable their face was a little red. Are they seriously upset I walked home with the girl? I didn't even go to her house though, I thought. Shortly after, both of them went back to their normal selves and thought about what I said. Wait, Issei, did you go inside the church? Tsubaki asked. No, I only saw her going inside. I got a bad feeling when I saw it, so I have stayed away ever since. I lied. After some thinking, Suna finally spoke up. Well, since this nun is a human and the fallen angels are trying to take advantage of her, we will meet the requirements to go into battle with them. Everyone stiffened up knowing that they were for sure going to battle. We are going to attack on Saturday, so be ready for that, Sona said. Is it okay if we can attack on Sunday? My family is coming back after a week of vacation, so I'd like to spend the day with them. I lied. I needed them to be with me when I attack. While I was confident I could defeat almost any normal human, I was not confident with my abilities against the supernatural. I needed more information and more battle experience. That is why I had set everything up to use the nun as bait for the fallen angels to take. Because they would want to take or use her sacred gear. That would be a big issue with the devils that ruled over this territory, especially since she is human, even more so. Very well, we shall attack on Sunday at 10 p.m. Don't be late, Sona said. After that, she dismissed everyone except for me. I say I want to start your training so I can hopefully get you battle ready by Sunday. I had planned just to have you watch, but since we have an extra day, you should be okay. With that being said, I hope you will train a little at home so you will be ready. I nodded and we made our way to the gym to start preparing. She first started teaching me how magic was formed and how to release it. She first started with simple water spells that were nowhere near as hard as the fire-breathing magic Drake started teaching me. You're surprisingly fast at learning this, Sona started. Drake has already started teaching you, hasn't he? I nodded, to which Sona sat down on one of the benches and looked up. Do you think you're going to be okay on Sunday, Issei? She asked in a kind voice that was much different from her normal cold voice. The aide Drag said he will train me tonight and tomorrow night. After a while, she finally stooped, looking up and looking at me while a small but warm smile on her face. Well, as long you feel ready, that's all that matters. She then walked up to me and handed me a piece of paper. I looked at it, and it had a phone number on it. Sona quickly walked past me so I could see her face and said, If you need anything, that's my phone number. Call if you need help with training or have any questions. She tried to keep her voice as calm and cold as it normally was, but I could tell that she was super nervous giving her phone number to me. Well, she said quickly as she fast walked her way out of the gym. Thank you, I said loud for her to hear. She stopped in her tracks and put her hand over her heart, then kept walking again. See you on Sunday, she said as she left the gym. After she left, I looked at the paper in my hand. The first girl's phone number I get at school is the student council president, I said as I looked at it. I quickly headed home after I plugged the phone number into my phone. When I got home and opened the door, though, my mom and dad immediately hugged me. Welcome home, you guys, I said in an emotionless voice. Oh, come on, we just came home. Can't you put a little smile on your face? My mom joked. I took off my shoes and had dinner with the family. Both of them talked about how awesome their trip was while I just kept eating. After that, I went to bed and waited for Sunday to come. Sunday 10.00. We were all in front of the church getting ready to go in. I don't want any one of us dying on this mission. Always stay on guard and be in your group. We were all assigned a partner to work with just in case things got a little bit out of hand. I was paired with Sona. Saji was paired with Tsubaki, Tsubasa and Ria, and Tomo and Momo. We all went inside the church to see a fallen angel with a man in a white church outfit. Well, the devil scum finally showed up. The man in white yelled, "Named Fried Sulzen. Not that you're going to need it though." He quickly leapt at us with a menacing grin with the sword he was slashing around like crazy. Amo quickly stepped in and parried off one of his blows. Press, you guys go ahead, Momo, and I will deal with this creep, Tomo yelled as Fried kept smiling at her while they kept slashing swords while Momo started to cast some magic to target Fried. All of a sudden, though, a light spear came from the fallen angel. It was a man who looked like he was in his late 30s and had black hair. "Don't think I'll just let you get by," he said while smirking. Tsubasa and Ria were quick to move in, with Ria promoting to queen and firing a quick magic spell to intercept the light spear. Tsubasa and Ria yelled, "Press, go on ahead, we will take care of this dude." As the two groups were fighting, I saw how well they worked together as a team. Tsubasa and Ria were taking turns attacking while Toma and Momo were attacking Frida at the same time. They quickly went on ahead only to see a hole in the ground where the altar should be. "I'm guessing we have to go down there," Tsubaki said calmly. Sona nodded as we all took the stairs into the darkness. "Depress, can I hold your hand please? I'm scared," Saji yelled. "No, you are a devil now, Saji. You can see in the dark, you will be fine," Sona said coldly. Saji was hoping she would gloss over it and accept his offer, but he should have known Sona's not dumb enough to fall for that. After 30 more seconds, we finally reached the basement, and there were a lot of people there. First was the fallen angel that killed me on top of an altar with a cross in the middle, and cuffed on that cross was Asia. All around us, however, were low-ranking regular humans, but there was so many that we still had to be careful. "That hero has finally shown up to save the beauty," the fallen angel said. As she said that, Asia raised her head to look at me with nearly lifeless eyes. She tried to talk but couldn't, that's how exhausted she looked. The random humans started attacking, but Tsubaki put up a strong barrier to keep us safe food for at least a little while. Not even the fallen angel could break it immediately. "Alright, Press, what's that plan?" Saji asked. He looked scared but knew he had to act tough if he wanted to impress Sona. Suna was about to start talking, but then I stepped in. "You all take care of the humans, I'll deal with the fallen angel," I said coldly. "Whoa dude, I'm not gonna take orders from you, the only one I take orders from is fine by me," Sona said with a small smile. Tsubaki then let go of the barrier, and the fighting was on. Tsubaki pulled out an Ajanata and started killing lots of the humans charging us, and Sona was using her water magic to completely overwhelm everyone else. I could tell that they were going easy on them so Saji could get some real battle experience in. Saji was knocking out the weakened humans with a black gauntlet on his hand. The fool doesn't even know how to use virtuous power yet. "That's pathetic," Drake said. I had to agree though, he was my senior devil even if it is by a few weeks. But he had Verta training him too. Unless Verta was just talking to him without helping him at all, it was kinda sad. I quickly equipped my boosted gear and headed towards the fallen angel. "I haven't even introduced myself yet, have I?" The fallen angel started. "The name's Rainer Newt, like you live to tell anyone about it though." "Boost!" my gauntlet yelled. "You have the boosted gear, well, I'll soon be taking that away just like how I took that nun's power away," she yelled. I looked over at Asia, who seemed to be getting worse by the second boost. After my second boost, I quickly charged and throwing my left arm at her face. She quickly dodged it though, and summoned the light spear and was about to thrust it right into my gut. I did a quick spin and dodged the light spear much to her surprise. I then grabbed her wrist and threw her over on her back. Boost! Akeno then started to cough up blood. "You know, I thought you would be a big threat to me, but now that I'm a devil you're light work," I said. This made Asia's eyes go wide with what she just heard, and that made Rainer even madder. "Don't underestimate me, you devil," she yelled as she threw 2 more light spears, which I effortlessly dodged, and then threw a punch right at her gut, knocking the wind out of her. I then realized I should practice some magic since I was here and did the spell for fire breath. I took a big breath and blew out fire that was way hotter than your average fire. Because I have been training with Drake, I had gotten to the point I could do this effortlessly. Raina yelled through her pain. I kept the fire going until I could no longer hear them, and I stopped. I looked at Raina, who was covered in burn marks and was on the verge of death. I then summoned a magic spell Sona had taught me, which made the water razor sharp like a water cutter. Wait, please let me live. I'll do anything for you, so please." She started calling out. "How pathetic," I said before unleashing the spell, killing her. When she died though, a green light came out of her body. I figured it must have been Asia's sacred gear. I figured that the reason she didn't use it was that she couldn't. She had no idea how it worked and only knew that it could heal people. Without that knowledge was one of the big reasons why she died so quickly. The green light in the air went back inside Asia right away. To say thank you, she started. Even if you are a devil, you are the one who saved me and helped me out the most while I was here, so I hope we can continue being together. If you untie me from the cross, I can heal myself enough to make me live, but not to the point of full recovery, she said weakly. It's almost sad how much she trusted me after one date. I looked back to see Sona, Tsubaki and Saji were almost done, and I turned back to Asia. When I did though, Asia's smile quickly vanished as she looked me in the eyes. Normally my eyes showed boredom or nothing, just a blank canvas. But this time my eyes were cold, so cold in fact that Horikita's glare could not even compare. I quickly leaned down to her level and whispered in her ear, "You played your part well, it's now time to rest." Asia looked terrified when she heard those words. She had finally found out all she was to me, a tool. She then tried to speak, but couldn't. She then started to look weaker, and weaker, and weaker until she finally passed. I turned back to see Sigi knocking out the last human. Apparently, the strain of the sacred gear being ripped out from her caused her to pass, I said emotionlessly. I then untied her body and started heading upstairs. Where are you going with her? Tsubaki asked. To bury her, of course, I replied. Well, I may have used her and let her die. I'm not so heartless just to let her go without a place to rest. I went up the stairs with the rest of the group behind me. When we made it up, we saw a dead fallen angel and no sign of the other guy. We are sorry, Press, we let Freak get away, Tomo and Momo yelled. That's okay, but are any of you guys hurt? Sona asked, concerned. No, we are all okay, replied Tsubasa. By the way, what happened to the nun? Ria asked. She sadly passed, Sigi said quietly. Everyone then looked down, sad that they couldn't save her. I kept walking towards the back door of the church while everyone stared at me confused. Sona, as if reading their mind, said, "He is going to bury her." I then left the church and set Asia on the ground, then grabbed a shovel propped up against the back wall and started digging. After a while I heard the back door open. It was Sona. Where did everyone else go? I asked her while I kept digging. I sent them home. It is pretty late after all, she responded. After a while, I finished digging the grave and placed Asia in there and started to refill the grave. After I was done, I noticed Sona was still there. Do you need something? Sona kept glaring at me after I said that, but shortly after spoke up. You let her die, didn't you? I turned around unsurprised that she had figured it out. I did, I replied. Why though? First of all, you weren't going all out from the very beginning, and secondly, you let her die after she got her powers back. She was going to be of no use. For one, she is way too trusting. Even if I had control of her right now, there's no telling when someone else would easily control her back. Then there's the fact that I'm a devil, and she is a nun. Even though her last words were genuine, she probably would return to the church and tell them all about our powers and whatnot. I replied calmly. I'm glad I chose you, she started. Most other people would save her just because she is a nice person. That's what I like about you. And don't worry, I won't tell anyone about this, you have my word. Although my face remained the same on the outside, a small smile wept on my face from the inside. To think that Sona would also have the same train of thought as me, I really do like her. But that Sona and I took our leave to our houses. The next morning I woke up and got ready for school. On my way to school, I checked my phone to see that I got a text from Sona. Club will not be happening today because of the events from yesterday. Get some rest for today. As I made my way into school, I heard people whispering again. I looked around to see Rias and Akeno talking in the main lobby. I guess they are the most popular girls in the school, I thought. I tried to make my way around them to get to my class. My Akeno spotted me. Hey Issei, come over here for a second, she said loud enough for everybody to hear. All the boys started glaring daggers at me while the girls started to gossip. Reluctantly, I made my way over there. What do you need? Akeno flashed a large smile and responded. We are going to hold a training session for a week starting tomorrow. If you'd like, you can join us. Akeno. Ria started. You can't just invite people for no reason to this. This is between my peerage and mine only, and since he doesn't want to help, there's no reason for him to go. Is she really that dumb? I thought. Akeno just tried to help her by inviting me to go to the training camp with her. If I were to say yes, that could help build a better relationship between Rias and I, and then I could help her out in the raiding game. That was probably what Akeno was thinking. However, since Rias turned it down initially, there's no reason for me to go. After all, I never planned to go in the first place. But before I could answer, someone else did for me. Issei would love to go, said Sona, who appeared behind me with a smirk on her face. Why do I keep getting roped into these things? I asked. Then Rias and Akeno started whispering in each other's ears, explaining what they should do. While they were doing that, Sona came up to me. This is a great chance for you to get some battle experience and assay. It's not every day we have some fallen angels that come into our territory that we can attack. I had to agree with her on that. After all, experience in using my boosted gear was going to be crucial to battles in the future. Fine, we will accept you, Rias started. Just try not to get in our way too much. Sona was angry about that, but she kept her calm and added, also Saji and I will be coming as well. What? Why? You think I can't train your servants good enough? Guys, class is going to start soon, I said as I pointed at the clock. Fine. You can come along as well, Ria said as she made her way to class. Man, I really do hate her. I thought as I made my way back to class. When I got to class, though, I noticed something. We were all given our assigned seats. I looked at the board to see who I was going to be sitting next to for the rest of the year, and it was Horikita. I turned to see her reaction, but she wasn't too bothered by it. Considering her options, being seated with me was probably one of the best choices she had. Class soon started afterward, but something I noticed throughout the day is that Sei-sensei kept staring at me. It wasn't like how your teacher looks at their student, but almost like she was trying to read me. Class dismissed, Sei-sensei announced. Everyone, including me, started to get their stuff together, but that's when Sei-sensei started talking again. Hi dude, wait in here for a second. There are some things I need to talk to you about. I did as she said since I didn't have club and waited for everyone else to leave. So how did you do it? She asked sternly. I gave her a questioning look. How did you become the student council VP? They said you helped out with their election. Is that really true? She asked coldly. Deciding that it was better to keep the lie going, I kept by with what they said. Yeah. I helped organize a lot of speeches and stuff for them. I mainly did things from behind the scenes. I've been watching you in class lately and I don't believe that. You don't seem like the person who would just help someone out. I do help out the few people I consider to be friends. Sona is one of them. After I said that, we stared each other down for a while and finally told me I was dismissed. When I opened the door to leave, though, there was a small girl with white hair waiting right next to it. It was Kaneko Tuju, a member of the Occult Research Club. With me, she said in a monotone voice. I followed her all the way to the old school building. So why am I here? I asked in a monotone voice. Open the door and find out, she replied. When I opened the door, I saw all of the popular people in school there. There was all of Ria's peerage and Sona and Tsubaki. I grabbed a seat next to Sona on the couch located in the middle of the room. Hiba was leaning against the wall. Rias was at her desk going through some papers with Akeno right behind her. Kaneko sat on the couch a few feet away from our couch, and Tsubaki was sitting on the same couch Sona and I were sitting on. I sat there quietly hoping someone could fill me in on what was going on. Before I could open my mouth, though, a light blue magic circle appeared on the ground. Out of it appeared a beautiful woman in a maid outfit with gray hair. Hello, Sona, Tsubaki, and who I presume is the Red Dragon Emperor I say hi to. She started with a quick bow. My name is Graphia Lucifuge. It's a pleasure to meet you. I am here on order for Surgiches to keep things from getting out of hand during the meeting. I figured that we were going to be meeting the person Rias was marrying, but I still wondered why I was here. I had nothing to do with this. Raphael looked at me with calculating eyes and tried to read me, but she most likely couldn't see anything about me from my face since it was almost always that same. Then an orange circle appeared on the ground, and coming out of it was a man with blonde hair who was wearing a white button-up under a dark red blazer that was unbuttoned. Rias dear, did you miss Riser? 'Cause Riser missed you lots, you know, he said as he quickly moved towards Rias. I did not miss you at all, she said with a stern glare. Don't be like that. We have to do this marriage for the sake of the underworld, so you should at least try to like Riser. Riza said arrogantly. Ria snapped back, well, we will see if you will be so prideful after our match. This put a grin on Riza's face. Do you actually think you can beat Riza? Riza knows he gave you a week of prep time, but don't be so ignorant to the point where you think you can actually win. While Riza was talking, I decided to take a look at the people who came out of the orange summoning circle after him. Nobody really looked too important, but I did notice a few things. One is that they were all women, meaning that this guy was 100% a rich playboy kinda guy. Second, there was one person who stood out, that being a girl who had the same color hair as Riser and seemed more like she didn't belong there if anything. I guess there was also his queen who had purple hair and looked to be on par with Akeno. Recently, Drake has been training me on how to tell the aura of people. The larger the aura, the larger the threat. Raythea, who was just watching this unfold, had an aura that could easily put Rias and Riser to shame even if they did a 2v1. After a while of Riser and Rias back and forth, Riser finally decided to take his leave. Alright, well, it is about time Riser should get going, he said arrogantly. Good, and never come back, Rias yelled. DCH, he clicked his tongue, but of course before he left he had to turn his attention towards Sona, Tsubaki and I. And Riser will definitely enjoy fighting the Red Dragon Emperor the most, he said mockingly. Wait, why am I involved in this? I turned my head towards Sona, who had the same puzzled look on her face. But that Riser finally took his leave with the rest of his peerage. So why am I fighting exactly? I asked. Your name was written down on the name of Rias Gremory's teammates. Because she had never been in a raiding game before, she was allowed 2 handicaps, one being the 1-week time prep, and the second being to invite one other person to join her. I noticed Sona and Tsubaki were staring at Rias with an angry glare, clearly looking for an explanation. Well, he did say he was going to join our training camp, wasn't he? In return for that, he has to help us beat Riser. Akeno, while she was still smiling, had an aura that looked like she was pissed off. Well, I don't really have a choice anymore, do I? I said. If I decided to not go, then Sona and her peerage would lose major face for one of their members running away from the fight. Sona and Tsubaki knew this as well, which was why they were so angry with Rias. Well, now that is over, I will be taking my leave, Grafia started. I look forward to seeing what you will say. She then left the room with a small smirk on her face. After she left, though, the air was so tense that everyone was on edge. Even Kaneko stopped eating her sweets. How dare you, Rias? Sona finally yelled. Not only did you put him down on your allies list, you also did sue when we already told you no. Rias, sensing how mad Sona was, tried to calm the situation. Sona, I am truly sorry, but I need all the help I can get for this one. I really am sorry, she said with a bow. Realizing that yelling wasn't going to do anything, Sona said in a cold voice, well, you owe us on now, remember that. After that, Rias gave a nod. Then we sat there for an eternity before Akeno finally spoke up. Well, let's get going to the train spot, okay? With that, everyone took their leave to go pack their stuff. I was walking with Sona and Tsubaki to go pick up Saji. I really am sorry about that, Issei. I know you don't like being forced to do these kinds of things. It's fine. Nothing we can do about it now, I said as we finally picked up Sagi, who was waiting in the student council room. After we picked up Sagi and dropped off Tsubaki, the 3 of us made our way to a large mansion on a hill in the middle of nowhere. I don't really know how they fund this place, but at least we won't be bothered. As we walked in, we all quickly went to our rooms, only to realize that we were 2 rooms short. Soon and Sagi had nowhere to go. If you don't mind, Saji, you can stay with me, Kiba said with a grin. Saji was hoping that he and Sona could share a room, but now that hope was lost. Since I knew that Sona was not in the mood at all to see Rias, I invited her to stay in my room, which she accepted. What, Soji yelled, P-Press, you can't just share a room with him. I mean, what if he tries to do something weird with you? Before Sona could speak, though, Rias started first. Yes, Sona, why don't you stay in my room? As I was trying to say, I will be staying in Issei's room, Sona said coldly. Oh my, I heard Akeno whisper as her cheeks flushed a little bit. After we got our stuff settled in our room, we all came down for dinner which Akeno and Kiba were making. After dinner was made, we all sat at the table while Rias explained what we were going to be doing. Issei, for the next week everyone is going to train you so you are ready to fight Riser. Kiba will teach you how to use a weapon, Kaneko will teach you sparring, and Sona, Akeno, and I will take turns teaching you magic. I was confident in beating Kaneko easily in hand-to-hand combat even if she was a rook, but Kiba and the rest would be trouble since I have no idea how to use a sword and I am still new to magic. But that being said, we all ate our dinner with small talk here and there. After dinner, we all headed up into our rooms where I faced quite the predicament. I could either let myself sleep on the bed, and Sona sleep on the floor since this is my room, or vice versa because she is my master. So do you want to sleep on the bed or? I asked. I thought we were going to both sleep on the bed, Sona replied. I had not expected her to be that straightforward, but it is a win-win situation, I thought. Okay then, I replied. We thankfully had a rather large bed so we didn't have to worry about anything awkward going on. Hey Sona? I asked. She yelled out. Sorry, were you sleeping? And no, you just startled me a little bit, she replied nervously. Even though we had our backs to each other, I could tell that she was uncomfortable. So to make things easier for the both of us, I decided to ask again if I should sleep on the floor. Are you sure you don't want me to sleep on the floor? I mean, I wouldn't mind it, you know. Sonia didn't say anything for a while, but finally said, You can still sleep here. Sorry if I'm a bit on edge, you're the first boy I have ever shared a bed with, so I just didn't really know what to expect. Sona replied with not as much nervousness in her voice as before, but it was still there. Alright then, I said as I finally went to sleep. When I woke up though, I found myself in a position I never thought I would end up in. Sona was sleeping directly on top of me with her face using my chest as a pillow. Now that I could really get to see her up close, I really got to see how beautiful she was. I already knew she was pretty, but seeing it up as close is something else. That's when I heard footsteps marching towards our room. Sona. Hey Sona. I tried to wake her up before whosoever came into our room. She woke up after I called her name the second time. Issei, she said tiredly. But once she saw what she was doing, her face immediately went red and she pulled herself up. That was when Rias opened the door of our room coming in. She yelled as she swung it open. She looked over at the bed and she even went red. To someone who had just walked in, this would probably look like something it wasn't. She was sitting directly on my stomach. What are you two doing? Rias yelled loud enough for everyone else to hear. Sona quickly got up with a flustered face and went into the bathroom that was in our room. Although the two girls had bright red faces, mine was just the same as usual. And out of nowhere, Siggy pooped in the door. You bastard, what did you do with Sona? He yelled. I didn't do anything. Rias was just overreacting, I said calmly. Saji looked at Rias and let out a sigh. Well, don't ever even think of doing that stuff with the press, got it? That was when Sona came out of our bathroom and pinched Siggy's cheek. Siggy, why are you in here? She asked calmly, but you could see she was bad. Well, I thought Issei did something to you, so I came here to see if you were alright. Well, as you can see, I'm fine, so can both of you take your leave as we get ready? She asked in the same voice as before. They quickly left the room with that. Sorry about this morning, she said, embarrassed. Don't worry about it. It's not every day I get to wake up like that, though. I replied back. Sona's face quickly went red again. I'm gonna go change, she said as she grabbed her bag and went into the bathroom. This is going to be a long week, I thought to myself. I went downstairs after the whole incident from this morning. I didn't let it bother me though, as I grabbed some cereal and sat down at the kitchen table. Sitting with me were Kaneko and Kiba. I didn't really know them too well, so I mostly kept to myself and started eating. Kaneko was eating some sweets, which was surprising since it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and Kiba was just sitting with us. After a while, Kiba finally broke the silence. So Issei, I heard you took down the fallen angel leader, is that right? I was the one who took him down, but it was mainly thanks to my team, I replied in a monotone voice. Well, even if your team did help you, you were the main one who fought her, right? Kiba said. Yeah, I said with a nod as I kept eating. Well, I hope you are ready for today since I will be your first training partner, Kiba replied with a grin on his face. I nodded again as I finished up my breakfast. As soon as I did though, everyone else came downstairs. Okay, Issei, you will first be training with Kiba to learn how to use a sword. Then you will come with me and learn magic. After that take a break for a bit, then you will have sparring with Kaneko, Rias told me. Okay, I replied back. Saji, you will first be sparring with Kaneko, and then be learning magic with Issei at the same time. After that take a break, then train with Kiba. Understand, Rias told Saji. Yes, Saji said way too enthusiastically. After that, I made my way towards the front yard with Kiba. When we arrived, I picked up a wooden sword that Kiba threw to me as he picked up another one. Issei, have you ever used a sword before? Kiba asked. No, when I fight I prefer hand-to-hand, I said back. Okay. Well, let's see what you can do with a sword first, and I'll try to give you tips and tricks as we go, he said with a smile. I got into what seemed right for a sword positioned and waited for Kiba to make his move. He finally decided to after 10 seconds and sped towards me super fast while swinging the wooden sword at my neck. I put up my sword and blocked off his attack much to his surprise. Wow! You have amazing reaction speed. I can see how you were able to defeat the fallen angels now, Kiba said with a smirk. I quickly flung his sword back and then backed up a little bit. He charged at me again, however this time he was going for a jab on my body. I quickly jumped back to dodge, but then he appeared behind me and swung his sword so it was right at my neck. Okay. I see what you need to work on. All you need is experience. Kiba started. Your performance really surprised me back there. Not only could you block my attacks when you have never held a sword before, but you kept track of my movements the whole time, even at the end when I was going full speed. That's not true. At the end you were moving too fast for me to see. At the end I lied. All of what he said though made sense to me. I have never used a sword before and I could track all of his movements. I just didn't want him to know that. But your eyes were tracking me when I went behind you, he replied back. If I could have really seen you, I would have blocked or dodged your attack, I said. He looked at me trying to see if I was lying but soon gave up. Alright then, ready for round 2? He asked with a smirk. I nodded and we went at it again. A few hours later it was time to call this training to an end. Duba beat me every time, although I wasn't trying my absolute hardest. I got the hang of using a sword pretty quick, but I still acted like I was bad at using one. I would say though if we were to fight only using swords and I was giving in 100%, I would win 50% of the time. I went inside to a study room where my next training was taking place. Riaz was wearing glasses and sitting in a chair next to a board. Saji was sitting in a chair a little bit away from the board with a table right in front of him. When I sat down next to him I looked at him only to see his face all swollen and bruised. An echo must have roughed him up good, I thought. Issei, I'm surprised you came back without a single injury, Ria said, surprised. We were using wooden swords so I wasn't too badly injured, I said back. Ria then quickly went into her lesson about magic. First I will teach you about the main things in Devil's Society. First are the 4 demon kings, Sergitius Lucifer, Seraphol Leviathan, Falbium Asmodeus and Ajuka Beelzebub. These are the new demon kings since all of the original demon kings died in the great war between the angels, fallen angels, and the devils, Ria said. She then went into the other factions and what they were named. For the fallen angels, their leaders were Azazel, Shemaiah, and Kakabil. For the angels, there was God as their main leader, and the other leaders were Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael. After that, she started going into magic. First thing I am going to teach you is basic. It is how to sense other races. If you focus on your eyes and look at me, you should be able to tell I am a devil, Ria said. It sounded very vague, but I gave it a shot anyway. The feeling was weird. I could tell that she was a devil, but I couldn't exactly tell how. Maybe it was something to do with magic. Saji yelled, I can't get it to work. He started complaining. Don't worry, after a while this will become so natural that you will be able to sense other races without having to focus at all, Ria said. So how do we know what other races feel like? I asked. You will just simply be able to tell. For example, If you see a random person on the street and can tell that they're not from a race you have sensed before, you won't know what it is until you get confirmation. All races will sense like each other from the same race. So if you can sense I am a devil, you will sense the same thing from Sona or any other devil, Ria said. After that, she just started teaching us what to do when we encounter other races and what not. It was fairly boring food the most of it. After we finished it was about 3:30, and I headed up to my room. When I opened the door I saw Sun sitting on a chair in the corner of the room looking at something on the desk right in front of her. I didn't want to bother her since she seemed pretty into what she was reading. Before I left I sensed to see was Ray Sona was, and just like how Ria said she sensed just like her. Ria's also mentioned that the stronger an enemy is the stronger that person will feel around you. I left quietly to not disrupt her and started walking around the mansion. My training with Kaneko was at 5 o'clock, so I had plenty of time to kill. As I was walking around I spotted Akeno, who also spotted me. "Oh, hi, Issei," she called out. "Hey," I said as I walked toward her. I sensed to see what race she was to see the difference between reincarnated devils and pure-blooded ones. When I did though I felt that well she mostly had an aura of a devil but also had an aura of something else. "So what are you doing over here?" Akeno asked. "I was just walking around to kill some time. Can I come with you?" "I know my way around here pretty well so I can show you around," Akeno said. "Hey Drake, are you awake?" I thought. "Yes, I am awake. Is something wrong?" the dragon asked. "Can you tell me what other race Akeno is?" "I'm sensing that she is not fully a devil," I replied. "I noticed this fairly early on, but she is actually half demon and half fallen angel. Her fallen angel side is very weak right now since she has not used her fallen angel powers for a while," the dragon said. "Okay. Thank you, Drake," I thought before cutting the communication between us. "I don't mind," I replied back to Akeno. This put a smile on her face as we walked around the mansion having small talk over here and there. After walking around, I said goodbye to Akeno and went to the backyard for some sparring with Kaneko. "I heard from Kiba that you are a pretty good fighter. Let's see what you got," she said as she wrapped gloves around her fist. We didn't talk at all. Once she put the gloves on we were both ready for battle. This time I took the first move and dashed toward her. I swung with my right arm at her face, which she quickly dodged, and then threw one back at my gut, which I was barely able to dodge. Not wanting to let her get the first move, I started to kick her right in the face, but she blocked it with her arm. After that, we both backed up a little bit. Despite her small body, Kaneko was an absolute powerhouse. Even though she blocked my kick, my leg hurt from making contact with her arm. "No wonder Kiba said you were good," Kaneko said. She had her other arm on the arm I just kicked, which meant I did do damage to her, which was good to know. I made my way back toward her again with a swing to her gut, which she dodged to the side, and then threw a kick toward my face, which I narrowly dodged by ducking under it. I quickly swooped her leg though before her other reached the ground, and she fell. I went on top of her and raised a fist and slammed it down, but stopped right before her face. I got up after and gave her a hand. After she got up, Kaneko was too stunned to speak. She never thought that she would ever lose to someone who just become a devil. "You're really good at fighting. How did you get so good?" Kaneko asked in a surprised voice. The memory popped up of a man in his middle 40s saying, "You say, remember in this world all that matters is you winning, it doesn't matter how it's done." I quickly snapped out of thought and lied to Kaneko. I was just naturally gifted. Kaneko didn't seem to believe me for 1 second, but we kept on sparring until 6 o'clock. Even though it was supposed to be training for me, it seemed like Kaneko was learning a lot more than I was during these spars. While Kaneko was walking away, I sensed that she was a devil but also had some unknown force inside her similar to Akeno, but definitely not a fallen angel. "Drake, can you tell me what other race she is?" I thought. "Sorry, partner, she feels familiar but I can't tell exactly what she is," Drake said. "Okay, thanks anyway," I thought before ending communication. After that, I went and had dinner with everyone there. "And Issei, you sure are good at fighting," Kiba said while eating his food. "Yeah, I couldn't even beat you once," Kaneko added. "Thank you," I said as I kept eating. Saji looked even worse than before with new bruises and scratches everywhere. We all finished dinner and headed to our room to rest. After a few hours went by of just me on my phone, I decided to call it a night and go to bed, and Sona also decided to do the same. "Hey Sona?" I asked. "Yes," Sona replied. She didn't seem like she was nervous like before. That was good. "Who exactly is Akeno and Kaneko?" "I can tell that Akeno is part fallen angel, but what about Kaneko?" Sona didn't say anything for a while, but finally decided to respond. "What I'm about to tell you stays between us, okay? I understand," I said in my monotone voice. "Akeno was born half fallen angel and half human. I don't know what happened after, but she was then reincarnated as a devil by Rias. The fallen angel she was related to was Borikiel. He is sub-leader class and is very strong. Kaneko, on the other hand, is half devil and half Nikomata. They both don't use their powers because of personal reasons they have with other people who are the same as them. Akenos being her father, and Kaneko being her sister Kuroka." "I see," I started. "What power does Borikiel have?" I asked. "He has the power of holy lightning." She suddenly cut herself off after realizing what I was after. "You're going to make her use her fallen angel side to rent you?" "Yes. From what I have heard from Ria's riser is someone who is immortal and has the ability to create fire out of anywhere on his body, since devils are very weak to light. If she could make light spears of doing something even better that involves light, we would have a much better chance of winning," I replied coldly. "If that's how you are going to do this, I won't stop you. However, remember that I never told you any of this." Rias made it clear that whoever knew the secrets of the Keno and Kaneko are not allowed to tell anyone without a permission. "Don't worry, I won't say a thing," I replied before going to sleep. The next few days went by the same as they did on the first day. Each day, though, I kept getting to know Akeno more and spent more time with her. On the last day after dinner is when I made my move. After everyone should have gone to sleep, I got up to leave and head to Akeno's room. "Good luck," Sona said. I was surprised that she was still awake but still kept going. After a while, I finally reached Akeno's room, which was right next to Ria's, so I had to be careful not to be too loud. I knocked on her door very quietly, and after a few seconds, a very sleepy Akeno opened the door. "Issei, what do you need?" she asked, half awake. "Let's talk outside if you're okay with that," I replied. I made our way to the front porch with Akeno, who was wide awake and had a slight blush on her face. "So what did you need to talk about, Issei?" she asked. "It's about Riser and how we are going to win," I said coldly, startling Akeno. "Shouldn't we discuss this with everyone then?" she said. "No. Us winning completely depends on you, and I think you know what you have to do," I said coldly. "What are you talking about, Issei?" she said as she was taken back by how cold I was. Normally, I would just be monotone and show no emotion, but now I was being different. I was being cold with her and way more different from when we were talking before. "Except your fallen angel's side. That is the only way we will win." This quickly shocked Akeno as she realized her secret has been discovered. "How did you find out?" she asked, defeated. "I can tell, but sensing it, even though it's hard to see, you are clearly half devil and half fallen angel," I said. "I will never use these powers that horrible man gave me," she yelled. "You don't know what it's like to have your mother killed in front of you just because she was married to a fallen angel." "Let me change the question then," I started. "Which do you care more about, Rias and the rest of your team, or your pride?" Hearing the question directly stunned Akeno, as she now had a few tears rolling down her cheeks. She was trying to answer, but nothing was coming out. "You know what will happen if you lose this match, correct? You, Rias, and Kaneko will all be forced to do whatever Riza says whether you want to or not," I said coldly. Now Akito was sobbing uncontrollably. "I just don't know what to do. I don't want to have us belong to Riser, but I don't want to use my fallen powers either," she said while crying. I put a hand on her shoulder and said, "Life is never going to be fair, and trust me, I know that all too well, but that doesn't mean we just sit back and do nothing. If we stay stuck in the past, then we will be left behind as everyone else moves on into the future." She stopped crying and processed what I said. I guided her to a bench on the front porch where we both sat down at. After a few minutes, she finally spoke up with a few tears still rolling down her face. "When I was younger, I had a wonderful family. A mom who loved me as well as a father who loved me. But that all changed when one day a bunch of people came to our house looking for my dad. I and my mom knew about fallen angels. I even had a pair of black feathered wings, but when the people found out he wasn't there, they decided to kill us instead. My mom died protecting me, and I was about to die when my dad finally returned and killed them. He looked at me and apologized, but I said that I hated being a fallen angel and I wish I was never born one. After that day, even though we lived in the same house, I never spoke to him. A few years later, though, Rias offered me a chance to become a devil, which I jumped at immediately, Akeno said with her tears starting to increase again. I didn't say anything, but I embraced her in a hug and let her cry until there were no more tears left to cry, but even after I still kept her in a hug. Do you think we can really win and I use my powers? She asked. Of course, all you have to worry about is Rise, or I'll take care of everything else, I replied. This put a small smile on Akeno's face. I let her out of the hug and said, Well, it is pretty late out, we should be getting to bed, I said in my regular monotone voice. Was the you back there the real you? Akeno asked. I think I'm always me, I replied. Are you going to stop hanging around me now because you know how I really am? She shook her head. Even though you surprised me a bit, I'm glad I found someone who can tell me what I need to be told, she said as she grabbed my hand and led me upstairs. Akeno, you just went past my room, I whispered. I know you're going to sleep in my room for tonight. After what you told me, I'm sure you can understand, right? She said with a blush. Sona is going to be pissed, I thought. I let out a sigh of defeat as we went inside her room and fell asleep on the bed with her coddling me. Well, this solves tomorrow's battle with Riser, but I feel like I'm going to be in big trouble tomorrow for this, I thought as I finally went to sleep. That's it, guys. Thanks for listening to my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Sayonara, see you in the next video.